Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the outfit, we are currently touring Australia on the Big Lap, or we were until this lockdown commenced. We thought it'd be a really good time to go over the overlanding or the Big Lap essentials of Australia, and this would be a really good time to start building up these supplies because they can be expensive and it will take you a while to get them all together. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but it's what we think is an essential, especially if you're traveling alone. If you're in a convoy of cars, it may be slightly different. So I've got most of the stuff laid out in front of me, apart from a couple of things like the winch, which obviously I can't show you. So we'll start getting cracking into your essentials. So first up, and pretty much an obvious one, a lot of these will be pretty obvious to you, but there might be a couple that you've overlooked. But first up, you're going to need lots of water, so you're going to need a really good water supply. We are constantly using this 20-litre jerry can, and then we've got more water on board for when we need it, and we will change that up if we're going into like a desert environment or whatnot if we're further away from towns. Also, you'll need fuel jerry can. We've got another one in the car, so that's an extra 40 litres that we can carry. Depending on whether you're diesel or not and how economical it is, you'll know how much fuel you've got to carry. Alright, now moving on to recovery gear, and this will be very much location specific and potentially vehicle specific as well. Now obviously the big one is to have a winch on the front of your vehicle, not only a good quality one, but one that you know how to use. We haven't had to use it on our trips so far. What we've used more of are recovery tracks. I would highly recommend you get a set of 4. We've only got a set of 2 at this stage. Reason being is obviously you can put them under all 4 tyres, but you can also stack them together, dig them into the sand on something like a beach, and use that as a sand anchor to pull yourself out. So that's really handy. Obviously a winch is going to be really good for if there are any kind of trees nearby. Adding on to that, you're going to want to grab a snatch block or a pulley block. Very good way to not only double your pulling strength but change the direction of pull. I won't go over that too much today. Adding on to that as well, you're going to want a tree protector, and that's also a good way to wrap it around a separate tree to change that direction of pull. You're also going to want a snatch strap for if another vehicle is nearby, they can pull you out using the elastic strength of that. And you're going to want a long tow strap, potentially even 2 if you can fit them. You're going to want some sort of a blanket or a winch dampener, if you will, and that's to lay over your pulling rope to stop any metal projectile in case something snaps or breaks. So that's another really good one to have. Still on the recovery gear situation, you're going to want to have a shovel. I prefer to carry a high quality small one because you can dig with it very fast, and you can also use it as your poo scooper. So if a cat can bury its deuce, so can you. Always just digging holes and stuff like that with this. You don't want to be carrying around a giant big shovel. Then on to a way to lift your own vehicle. So we've got a bottle jack that we prefer to take. Now we prefer a bottle jack over a high lift or a farm jack, mainly because it's easy to carry, so you can have it inside the vehicle rather than with like a high lift jack you're gonna have to mount it on your vehicle somewhere. That'll often be up high where you don't want that extra weight, and also because it's much safer and easier to use. Now farm jacks are great, but if you're for instance lifting up the side of your car on a weird angle, that can slip and it will punch straight into the side of your car, or you can smack yourself in the noggin with the handle when that goes. They are really handy for popping a tyre bead, but with a few stacks of wood, as long as you can get this high enough, you can break a bead with this one. Moving on, you want a way to collect firewood, and in a pinch, an axe can be used in a self-defense situation, and a bow saw is even more effective for chopping down small bits of firewood super fast. Okay, so you're going to want a few rated recovery points on your vehicle. Don't just assume that you can pull off any old bull bar. If you do have some rated points, you're obviously going to want to get some shackles so that you can pull off these. You can also get the soft shackles nowadays as well, but they aren't as strong as the steel ones, but they are a lot safer. I would really recommend getting some way to have an onboard compressor. We've now got a ARB one mounted in the glove box, but you can just use one of the portable ones and just have it stowed in your vehicle. Those are a lifesaver because you're always going to want to be reducing tire pressures, and then you're not going to want to have to drive all the way to a gas station in order to fill them back up. You're going to want to be able to fill them up on the side of the road. So without showing you the compressor, which is mounted inside, obviously just showing you the stuff we're using for it. So tire gauge and the hoses. And now moving on to tools. So can't even count the amount of times I've needed some basic tools, just for all kinds of things, even if it's the fixing something on the roof rack or the tent or changing the brakes, anything like that. So make sure you've got a pretty basic socket set, and then just have a bag of your basic tools. So ball peen, hammer, pliers, tape, everything that you really need. And onto that I've also got rubber mallets, more hammers, and I've got 2 tire levers as well in case I've got to pull the tire off a rim and fix that. Make sure you've got spare hoses for your vehicle. Make sure you've got spare fluid as well. So I carry oil, coolant, power steering fluid. You're going to want anything that you need that's vehicle specific. Grab some WD-40 for dispelling moisture and loosening up any bolts and whatnot. Grease just to keep your car in order. Then you're also going to want a fire extinguisher, especially in Australia, and make sure that it's somewhere where you can access it easily. You're also going to want a knife, not only for basic utility, but you're also going to want that for cutting a seat belt if you have to. In a rollover, your seat belt will lock, and if there is a passenger or someone over the seat buckle, you may need to cut through that belt. So you can buy specific seatbelt cutters, which are safer, but just a pocket knife will do. Obvious stuff: matches, fire lighter, some sort of way to light a fire, and separately, which I won't show in the video, is obviously a way to cook food as well. So you're going to need a stove. Head torch, not much needs to be said about that. Then you're going to want a way to be able to radio for help. So I've got a CB radio mounted in the cab. You're going to want to know what your emergency channels are, and you're going to want a way to be able to contact people, but not something you can completely rely on, especially if you're in really hilly terrain or if you're a long way from civilization or other vehicles. So would really recommend a GPS system. So I always carry this Garmin. It's the InReach Explorer Plus. Very expensive, but that could potentially save a life. And I carry them on any big hikes, and always it's in the vehicle otherwise. Onto that safety sort of stuff, you're going to want a really good first aid kit. I've got one from Survival First Aid Solutions. This is a vehicle one, has everything you need, including a snake bite bandage, which is basically just a compression bandage. So that's an incredibly important part of your kit. And then moving on, almost done, you're going to want a jump starter system. So it's just a lithium battery which you can hook up to your starter battery and charge it in case it dies. What I won't talk about in this video is things like solar, all stuff like that. That'll be, again, vehicle specific, and it starts to get a bit out of control with that, but hopefully that helps. That's your big list of everything you're going to need to do this big lap of Australia or any kind of other overlanding adventure, especially if you're going off-road frequently. I will put a little list in the description that you can start ticking off and start collecting all this stuff. Cheers.